Hello, welcome to Captain Doraj's Armory. This is Captain Doraja, and we're going to be doing something a little different. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a subscriber replay. This replay that we're going to take a look at comes from Mateo Bekovic on YouTube. In game, he is Roachie. He plays on the EU server, hailing from the country of Croatia, which I cannot say that I've ever been to Croatia, but I know some people who have. They said it was pretty cool. So we're going to be taking a look at a replay of him in the E-75 German Tier 9 heavy tank, which you can see right here in my garage. The E-75 is an absolutely monstrous tank. Probably one of the strongest tanks in the game. This thing is incredible. It is Tier 9 heavy, and it is heavy. Like, this thing is big. 92 tons. Like, you don't want to crash into this thing unless you're driving a mouse. And just, this tank is really good. I actually repurchased it because when I unlocked the E100, I sold my E75 to buy the E100, and I wanted the E75 back because it was such a fun tank. This tank is just absolutely awesome. You can see right here, this is the gun that it mounts. This gun is, if you get into the high-level German tanks, you'll become very, very familiar with this gun, the 128 millimeter KWK L55. The Ferdinand uses this gun as a tank destroyer version. So does the Jagdpanther II. The E75, this is the main gun for the E75, as well as for the VK4502P, also B. The Mouse uses this gun, and before you unlock the 150 millimeter gun, this is the gun you use on the E100. And this is also the stock gun on the Jagdtiger. So you're going to get familiar with this gun if you play high-tier Germans. And that's good, because this gun's really good. The rate of fire is kind of slow, 3.82, but the penetration is high, 246. That's pretty good. If you use premium rounds, you can pen up to 311. I have 5 premium shells in my tank, but that's mostly for stuff like, in case of emergency, absolutely must penetrate a T110E3, because I've gotten orange on their weak points with this. So yeah, that sucks. So yeah, the big thing about this is it's got high alpha, and for a lot of German players, high alpha is something they're not that used to. 490, that's pretty nice. Trade-off, your accuracy is not that great. 0.38 accuracy. German tanks, accuracy is one of their hallmarks. This is one of the lesser accurate German tank guns, although point of interest, the IS-8's main gun, the 122 millimeter M62, has a 0.38 accuracy, and when you're playing Russian tanks and you get the IS-8, you're like, holy cow, this thing has an accurate gun. So yeah, it's all relative. 2.9 second aiming time on this, not the slowest, but it's not really that fast. So the IS-8, or the IS-8, the E-75, this thing is just a beast. It's armored like a fortress. It can take more damage than an Imperial Star Destroyer. 120 or 160 millimeter front plate, very well sloped, slanted back substantially more than the Tiger II, and thicker. And you will definitely notice the difference. Plus the machine gun ball is gone, so no upper plate weak point on this thing. The lower plate is a weak point, and it's got the front mounted transmission, so it can catch on fire. So you have to angle, and you want to angle it quite a lot. Probably, something like this. But that's fine because your hull armor is 120 on the sides, so that's pretty strong, and 120 on the rear. So your side armor is thick enough that you can afford to angle quite a lot. The turret on this tank is very strong, 252 at the front, 160 on the sides and rear. This hatch frontally is a weak point, and you'll see Roachie exploit that in the match we're going to look at. but it's a small weak spot and it's pretty hard to hit unless you're at close range. But the good thing about the E-75 is close range is where this sucker wants to be. You want to be at close range, smoking other people with your powerful gun and just tanking the damage with your awesome armor. Now, in a tank that's so heavy and so armored, you'd think that the E-75 would be pretty daggone slow, but it gets a 1200 horsepower engine. It's actually pretty maneuverable for a tank of this size. Heavy tanks like this, I like to call them a heavy tank, as opposed to a fast heavy. Something like an IS-3, that's a fast heavy. It's definitely a heavy tank. It's well armored. It's well armed. It's big. It takes hits, but it's less about the armor and more about the firepower and maneuverability. This thing is a heavy tank. It's about the armor. It's about the gun. It's about taking damage. This thing, for a heavy tank, it's fast. I don't think Roachie has the upgraded engine in his because he's kind of moving a little sluggish. This tank, when you don't have the engine, it's like a Tiger 2 that's slowed down a little bit. But when you get the engine on this thing, it's just such a complete package. It's got great staying power in a fight, real good firepower. The mobility is excellent for a tank of this class. It's amazing at close quarters combat. It's nearly unstoppable at medium range combat. And even with the reduced accuracy, it's still a very strong tank at long range combat. So the E-75, you could make a case that the E-75 is the best tank in the game. But anyway, I've been singing this thing's praises pretty hard, so let's get on with it. Let's see it in action. Well, so here we are. We are with the E-75 in a standard battle on the Fjords map. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the map size here. Big mini-map is a huge advantage. Really helps with situational awareness. So, we're going to be taking a ride in this match with Roachie, a.k.a. Mateo Bekovic. You can see he's in a platoon with an IS-6, who I'm going to refer to as LZ. And we're not going to see a whole lot of LZ in this, because Roachie goes down south and LZ goes up north. So we're not going to see the two of them too much. But this is a really good E-75 game. Massive carry here. So we're just going to let this one play out. So Roachie's coming down south. And in a matchup like this, it's a fair bet that some of the enemy's biggest heavies are going to come down to the south. So if you're in a like a heavy tank, like an E-75 or like an ST-1 or something, coming down to the south here is a good bet to get a chance to destroy your opposite number. And when you're at the top of the list like this, destroying your opposite number is an important function. So Roachie's heading down south, and he makes the smart move of coming down onto this low pathway here. You can see on the map there's a Leopard prototype, a T-30, a Comet, and some sort of heavy tank. It looks like a Lerva, who are clustered in the center. If he'd stayed up on the high road with the ST-1, he probably would have got flank shot pretty seriously. And a volley from all of those tanks can do somewhere in the order of... it might actually kill him. A volley from those four tanks could kill his E-75 in one volley. So taking the low road, no side shots for the enemy. Roachie is safely arrived down south. But as you can see, he's basically alone. So he asks in chat for some help. The friendly ST-1 is coming to help him. So right here, first contact with the enemy, he meets a very ballsy E-75. Roachie's taking the position here because he's all alone. It allows him to cover up his lower plate against this cliff where I'm pointing the cursor and engage the C-75 while he comes around the corner. The C-75 driver on the enemy team, like I said, very, very ballsy. Usually you just see somebody poke their nose around to find out what was here. As soon as they encountered any resistance, you'd kind of get like a side scrape duel. That's sort of what would be more likely to happen. But this E-75 goes straight around the corner, full speed, side on, and took a hit, and then dropped down into this covered position here. He's now in a very bad spot. He can't really even get his gun up to engage him without opening himself up for some pretty serious reprisals. So Roachie's been able to put another one through the commander's hatch of the enemy E-75. He puts one into the T-29. He's already racked up 1,400 damage, just pulverizing these enemy tanks with this powerful 128mm gun. Now you can see here he's aiming at the commander hatch again, puts another shot into it for 550 damage. This enemy E-75 is, well, he's in a bad spot. Now you can look on the mini-map, it looks like the north of the map, the team is in trouble up north. But, you know, Roachie can't do anything about that until he handles these guys down here. So the E-75, as he backs up, he exposes his side to this IS-8 who's come up in support, and they're able to knock out the E-75. Now, it's a good chance there's just the T-29 here. You can see most of the enemy team has been spotted. T-29 was the only other thing that showed up down here. So when you're in an E-75, a T-29 frontally, it essentially can't hurt you. So knowing that, Roachie just rolls around the corner and blasts the T-29. But the north flank has failed, and the middle is getting rolled up as well by push down from the north. An Indian Panzer and an IS-8, you can see them moving on the map headed towards base. And Roachie's now headed back to the base as well. You can see the friendly tanks in the center of the map are dying as they collapse back towards the center pass in sector F4. And just, you know, this team's just trying to cobble together a defense. They're only down one tank as far as kills go, but they're position-wise, the enemy team is in a far superior position. So Roachie's coming back to defend, and an E-75 on full HP is a force to be reckoned with. And right there you can see two enemy Type 59s engaging the Indian Panzer and the IS-8. A Type 59 is hard-pressed to damage an E-75, even from the side. And you can see right there, Roachie's able to put a shot into the Type 59. That's a pretty lucky shot, truth be told. Firing on the move frontally at a Type 59. There's a lot of places where even this gun will bounce off a Type 59. And it's not the most accurate gun for firing on the move. So here he's taking cover from the enemy by the dead Type 59, using it to cover his lower plate. Just saw the IS-8 put a monster hit under that Jagdtiger, was able to set him on fire. I think he did almost 1,000 damage to him with that one shot. The IS-8 puts another shot into the Jagdtiger right here. The first time I watched this replay, I initially thought to myself that if I'd been driving the E-75, I would have stayed bunkered up behind that dead Type and engaged the Jagdtiger. But about 2 seconds of thinking along those lines, I realized these guys are so outnumbered. They can't afford to sit around here. They've got to push. They've got to make things happen. They need to attack these guys and defeat them before the enemy brings up support from behind. And you can see that's what all four are doing. Now, the T-29, lusting for battle, accidentally team kills the Indian Panzer. Not the best move ever. The IS-8 and Roachie finish off that Type 59. On the approach, Roachie was able to get another pretty lucky shot into the Type 59. Again, full speed on the move with an E-75. About half his aiming circle would have missed, and of the rest of his aiming circle that was on the Type 59, half of that was turret, which would have bounced. So I'd call that a 1 in 4 shot, and it went in. So that's pretty lucky. Now we got a Tiger. Tiger 2, not fully upgraded. You can see he's got the stock turret, and at best he has the first 105mm gun. So that Tiger 2 is basically a non-entity. With that gun, he can't damage an E-75 frontally, and with that turret, he has no hope of surviving the firepower of any of these three tanks. So Roachie and the ISA uh, essentially obliterate that Tiger 2 with extreme prejudice. This, to me, looks like a pretty lucky shot. It looks like he just kind of wafted that shell straight into the front of that KV-4, but it went in, so that's all that matters. This is a dicey situation for Roachie. He's got the Lerva and the KV-4 behind. You can see the Lerva is engaging him. He's got the Leopard prototype in front. I think what I would have done here is I think I probably would have gone after the Leopard prototype. The Leopard has a stronger gun with a lot of damage per minute and a lot of penetration. Basically, every shot's going to go in against an E-75. And the KV-4, not so dangerous. I think what I would have done is I would have tried to drive the Leopard away from this house. Once I'd done that, I would have either have killed the Leopard or I would have just driven him off. And then I would have turned around, knocked out the KV-4, knocked out the Lerva, and prosecuted the Leopard. So at this point, the enemy E-75 starts saying gold noob. And I will point out that Roachie does have 10 rounds of armor-piercing composite rigid premium ammunition in his tank. But as you can see, he has not used a single shell of the APCR. So, yeah, enemy E-75, you're just completely wrong. No premium ammunition is expended at any point in time by this player. The first time I was watching this, looking at these hit decals, I thought the Leopard prototype might have been firing high explosive anti-tank ammo, but those are hit decals from armor-piercing composite rigid shells, and APCR shells are standard ammo in the Leopard prototype, I think. So, right here, what Roachie's trying to do is really smart. He's going to go through this field and attack into the enemy base. He's trying to get the T-29 to go this way through the city. And that is smart, because there's a really good chance that in a situation like this, the enemy artillery is going to do one of two things. Thing number one, he'll bunker up in his own base and hope to just TD mode these guys as they come in. Thing number two, he'll be a faggot and suicide and earn my eternal contempt. Thing number three, he'll attempt to do a backdoor capture. So, by splitting up against that arty, whom either one of these guys could handle in a one-on-one, they increase their likelihood of encountering the GW Tiger as he maneuvers towards their base in the event of a backdoor capture attempt. And if the arty doesn't backdoor capture, they roll into the base from two different locations, making it easier to attack if this guy's trying to TD them. So splitting up in this case would be the right thing to do. If you were hunting a lone tank that was powerful in a one-on-one engagement, say the last man left was an E-75, then splitting up would be a bad idea, because you don't want to divide your force and go into a one-on-one, which plays to the advantage of the enemy. But in this case, a one-on-one plays to their strengths, and splitting up would have allowed them to probably catch the GW Tiger as he maneuvered through the city, through this middle gap, going for the backdoor capture. But the T-29 doesn't follow Roachie's advice, and he sticks with him. Now Roachie again is trying to get the T-29 to quickly run in to the enemy or to the friendly base, detect the GW He wants him to try and detect the GW Tiger and get the first shot in, just to make sure this guy can't cab. So the T-29 takes the longest possible route to get back and actually arrives after Roachie in a more vulnerable method of approach. So, with a team kill and some of his other actions, it leads me to believe that T-29 driver was not the best player out there. But that does not matter. Roachie secures the kill on the GW Tiger, and ends the game. Now we're going to take a look at some post-battle results here, because this was an impressive game. So you can see non-doubled 2,217 experience on a premium account. Again, I would repeat, that is not doubled. Mastery Badge Ace Tanker. Everyone loves an Ace Tanker. And getting Ace Tankers in tanks that are really good is hard because the tank is really good. People rack up ridiculous experience in them. So getting a Master Tanker in a tank like E-75 is pretty difficult. I'll have to check my... I'm going to check my own service record. I don't know if I've got it myself. So you can also see he got a Reaper, and I think that's a Sharpshooter medal, as well as a Top Gun and a Sniper. Back in the old days, would have reveled in the Bolter's medal, but that doesn't exist anymore. So you can see here, he did a lot to a lot of players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 out of 15 people felt the wrath of Roachie, so that's pretty good right there. You can see far and away top damage on his team, 6,672. That is a hell of a lot of damage. You can see, though, he had a monstrous game, but he's not the only one. This IS-8 played a really good game as well. We didn't get to see much of what this Lorraine did, but any game where you do 3,700 damage, that's a big game. And this IS-8 had a pretty good game as well with 2,200. That T-29, he was in a pretty hard match, but 0 damage and a team kill, like inability to figure out incredibly basic things. That guy's a meat shield, and he was used accordingly. In fairness, the enemy team had some players who did really well as well. This Lerva, he had a really good game, and this Leopard prototype also had a really good game. KV4 played a strong game with 2,000 damage. There was a lot of good players in this match. Roachie just had a monstrous game and really tipped the balance for his team. So you can see here, 16 shots fired, 16 hits, 16 penetrations. A couple of those, three of those shots actually, I was pretty surprised about. The 2 on the move shots at the Type 59s. You know, I would say those were 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chances of going in, and both of them went in, so that's good. The one against the KV4, I'm not super familiar with the weak points on the KV4, but it looked like he just fired basically just right straight through the KV4's face, and that's a very heavily armored tank. But it went through, so that's all you need. He only took 8 hits in this match and only 2 bounces, but it was still 2,870 potential damage. So even in a match where he didn't take that much fire, the E-75 can really survive a beating. You can see here he made a 55,000 credit profit. When you're making that much money in a Tier 9 tank, that's a good game. This game was just... They don't come much better than that. That game was great. About the only thing that I really would have done different in that entire game is I might have gone after the Leopard first instead of going after the KV4. But really the only thing that I have to say that I would have done differently is I wouldn't advise platooning an E-75 with an IS-6. IS-6 is just at such a disadvantage when it has to face Tier 9s. It definitely can't. It definitely cannot fight Tier 10s successfully. So, I mean, other than that, though, this game was just absolutely monstrous. So, congratulations, Roachie, for the just amazing E-75 match. It was a really good one. Thanks for sending that in. If you want to send in replays to me, you can send them to CaptainDorajsArmory@gmail.com. That's all one word with no apostrophe. So you can send it to CaptainDorajsArmory@gmail.com. Only replays from 8.6. If you have post-battle results, that's preferable. And just a little bit of commentary yourself on what you were thinking, so that way I know what you're thinking without a shadow of a doubt. So yeah, that was a really good game. I enjoyed watching it. I hope you enjoy watching it as well. And until next time, This is Captain Dorja with Captain Doraj's Armory, and just remember, guys, you can never have enough big guns.